When forming the budget for 2024, the Russian government set the oil price at $70 per barrel, while the price ceiling set by sanctions against the aggressor country is no more than $60 per barrel, and Moscow cannot sell raw materials above this mark. Meanwhile, the Kremlin has cut healthcare spending and cancelled the petrol price compensation program. After the pseudo-presidential elections, the central bank is likely to release the ruble exchange rate, which will lead to huge inflation. Citizens' incomes will be devalued by tax revenues to the budget will increase, experts predict. Moscow plans to squeeze as much money as possible to continue its war against Ukraine.
Но даже если все это объединить,
But even if you combine all of this, even if you sum up all of this up, it still doesn't cover the increase that they have pledged in budget revenues for 2024. Therefore, we can say that the Russian budget is unrealistic. They have drawn the maximum number in order to scare the West with big war spendings, but in fact, most likely this budget will not be fulfilled.
As noted in the UK intelligence, the government of the Russian Federation plans to increase the expenditure part of the state budget by 26% in 2024. At the same time, Moscow will have to reduce contributions to the National Welfare Fund and increase taxes inside the country, all for the sake of continuing the war.
These policies will almost certainly have adverse effects on the economy in the medium to long term by maintaining inflationary pressures or constraining future economic growth. The National Wealth Fund is ostensibly for the long-term economic welfare of the Russian people, but is increasingly being used to fund its invasion of Ukraine, with the value of its assets falling 10% in 2023, from a report by the UK Ministry of Defense on social media X.
The drive to continue the war against Ukraine is ruining Russia's economy but boosting the GDP of other states. The Federation is partly replenishing its dwindling stockpiles of military equipment and ammunition with supplies from North Korea. For example, Bloomberg analysts estimate that Russia will pay North Korea at least $1 billion for artillery shells.
North Korea's economy has been on the decline for the past 5 years, so the weapons deal with Russia will help return to positive growth of around 1% in 2024. North Korea has wanted two things for a while now. One is legitimacy as a nation, which it doesn't have because the Korean War hasn't ended. The second is a sustainable defense sector and military which is capable of defending its sovereignty. Anvita Basu, head of Europe, Country Risk at Fitch Solutions, in an interview with Deutsche Welle.
They are buying shells that are not quite of the quality that they should be, much worse, because there is no technology, much more failure, more inaccurate, so it doesn't have the effect that they hoped for.
Such deals would have profound consequences for the war in Ukraine and security dynamics in East Asia, analysts of British Royal United Services Institute for Defense Studies wrote. After all, the money that North Korea received from Russia will not be used to improve the welfare of its citizens, but spent on the modernization of its defense industrial complex, reported by Anna Nichenko, Larissa Zubenko, UATV News.